Po the giant panda wakes up from his dream in his room. His goose father, Mr. Ping, James Hong, calls to him from the noodle restaurant below to help serve tables. He is hesitant to express his desires to his dad, who is more interested in running his restaurant and advertising his famous secret ingredient soup. Master Shifu, or Red Panda, who resides at the Jade Palace Temple, practices kung fu in the courtyard with his students, the Furious Five, Tigress Crane Monkey. Before he is summoned to see Tortoise Grand Master Oogway, fearing something is wrong, Oogway doesn't deny bad news but calmly tells Shifu he's predicted that the snow leopard warrior Tai Lung will escape prison and return to the Valley of Peace to wreak destruction once again. Shifu sends his goose messenger, Zhong, to fly to Chorgom prison to ensure that security is increased. Oogway then proclaims that it is time to choose the dragon warrior. Shifu prepares a competition to determine which one will qualify. Flyers for the competition are spread throughout town and the villagers flock to the temple. Excited to have the opportunity to see his idols in person, Po follows with his noodle cart in tow but struggles on the long staircase to the temple. He is the last to arrive at the gates and finds that they've shut him out. In a desperate bid to see the competition before it's over, Po fashions fireworks to his cart and blasts himself high into the air, only to come crashing down in the arena just as Oogway is preparing to choose out of the five. Oogway's decision is final, despite Shifu's protests, and Po is carried, unsuccessfully, into the temple, leaving Tigress greatly disappointed since it seemed Oogway would have chosen her if Po hadn't arrived. Inside the temple, Po examines, with awe, the many weaponry and valuable artifacts before Shifu approaches him and berates him for his obvious lack of skill. He deflates Po's excitement by grabbing his finger in what Po recognizes as the Wuxi finger hold, reputed to be extremely powerful. Shifu promises that Po will regret ever being chosen before taking him to the Five's training room, where Po is promptly put to the test. Nervous, but excited to try some kung fu moves, Po accepts the challenge but is hurdled, flung, and beaten down to a now existing level 0. On the way to the dormitories, Po overhears the five poke fun at his incompetence. He has an awkward conversation with Crane. Tigress assures his doubts, calling him a disgrace to kung fu and tells him that, if he is wise, he will leave by morning. Oogway finds him sitting beneath the peach tree of heavenly wisdom with peaches stuffed into his mouth. He should instead focus on the present moment rather than doubting himself. Renewed with a sense of determination, Po rises the next morning before anyone else and announces that he will stay to train. He spars with each of the Furious Five, receiving swift beatings despite his undeterred enthusiasm. During an acupuncture session with Mantis, the five reveal that Shifu was not always as stern as he currently is. Tigress explains that Tai Lung himself was the reason for Shifu's shift in personality. Having found him as a newborn on the steps of the temple, Shifu raised Tai Lung as his own and began to hope that he was the fabled dragon warrior when the cub displayed a natural talent in kung fu. Enraged, Tai Lung went on a rampage through the village and attempted to take the scroll by force. Tigress then says that Shifu never cared for anything or anyone since, not even her, his own foster daughter. Vacher assures Zhong that the prison is inescapable as one of Zheng's feathers falls within reach of Tai Lung. Using his tail, he uses the feather to remove the chi blockers in the turtle shell contraption on his back and break free. Tai Lung escapes the prison in an explosive display of his fierce kung fu abilities and grabs Zhong, instructing him to fly back to Shifu to announce that the real dragon warrior is coming home. Back at the temple, Po entertains the five with some noodle soup he prepared, imitating Shifu using a noodle as a mustache. Outside, Shifu is met by a disheveled Zhong who relays the news. Panicked, Shifu finds Oogway beside the sacred peach tree and tells him that Tai Lung is on his way. He then gives Shifu his wooden staff and claims that his time has come. He walks near the edge of the cliff side and vanishes in a haze of peach blossoms. Shifu returns to the temple, disconsolate, and informs the five of Oogway's passing and how Po is their last chance to defeat Tai Lung. Horrified, Po flees from the temple but is soon stopped by Shifu. When Shifu asks Po why he then stayed, knowing that his teacher wanted him to quit, Po confesses a deep self-loathing as a fat failure, how he held out a faint hope that Shifu could change him. Overhearing this from the temple roof, Tigress leaves the Jade Palace and runs out to the countryside, soon followed by the rest of the five, to meet Tai Lung head-on. They find him crossing the Thread of Hope, a series of bridges through the mountains. After an epic battle, the five gain the upper hand and appear to have defeated Tai Lung, tying him to the remains of the severed bridge and sending him into the mist below. However, Tai Lung's skills prove superior, and he surprises them. Rising that morning, Shifu finds Po in the temple kitchen. Shifu entertains an idea and tells Po where Monkey keeps his cookies before hiding behind the doorway. He re-enters and sees Po performing a perfect split near the ceiling, chowing down on the cookies. Realizing Po's latent talent, Shifu takes him high into the Wudan Mountains to the Pool of Sacred Tears where Oogway founded the origins of Kung Fu. With a dramatic flourish, Shifu proclaims to be Po's master. With that emotional support, Shifu begins his rigorous training Po, using food as a reward. Po's unique training proves to be successful and he grows stronger and more coordinated while Shifu's own spirits rises and advances at Po's rapid improvement. Shifu's faith in Po is vindicated in an increasingly energetic duel over a dumpling that becomes a wild spar in which the giant panda fights with powerful and innovative skill to win. They return to the temple as Crane flies in, carrying the rest of the 5, who have been paralyzed by Tai Lung's attacks. Shifu assures him that he will have what no one else has, the Dragon Scroll. Shifu retrieves it for Po and instructs him to read it, but Po exclaims in surprise to find nothing but a blank, reflective glaze on the scroll. Terribly disappointed, Shifu relents to have the 5 evacuate the village while he remains at the temple to hold Tai Lung off. Po returns to his father who is packing up the noodle shop. Ping tries to console Po, but Po admits that he's not sure of who he is and can't believe he's Ping's son. He explains that something becomes special if people truly believe that it is. Shifu battles Tai Lung. Tai Lung demands his birthright to have the scroll and blames Shifu for planting dreams in his head of what he thought was his destiny and not standing up to Oogway when the turtle disagreed. He is stopped from dealing a deadly blow to Shifu by Po, who appears, exhausted, at the doorway of the temple. Tai Lung nonetheless attacks Po when he reveals the dragon scroll in hand. Their battle takes them into the village, each one vying for possession of the scroll. Tai Lung finally wins the scroll and triumphantly opens it for the supposed power within. When Po rises to explain it, Tai Lung refuses to accept the panda's words. Tai Lung attacks Po again, but without discipline or real purpose behind it. Tai Lung spews out a slur of insults before Po takes his finger in the Wuxi finger hold. Tai Lung calls Po's bluff and Po admits that Shifu never taught him the move. He figured it out on his own. Energy that resonates throughout the valley and is felt by the 5 leading the refugees into the hills. Tigress and the rest of the 5 bow down to Po, calling him master, before Po runs back to the temple to check on Shifu. He finds Shifu lying still, but alive, on the floor of the temple and tells him he defeated Tai Lung. Po calls out to him and Shifu reprimands him, saying that he's merely resting. Long ago, Lord Shen, heir to the Peacock clan that ruled over Gongmen City, sought to harness the power of fireworks as a weapon to fuel his aggressive ambitions of ruling over China. When he learned from the court soothsayer that a warrior of black and white would one day defeat him, Shen assumed she was referring to the giant pandas and had them exterminated to avert the prophecy. Horrified at this atrocity, Shen's parents exiled him. Feeling abandoned and betrayed, Shen vowed he would return one day to rule supreme. Over 20 years later, Master Po is now living his dream as the Dragon Warrior, protecting the Valley of Peace alongside his friends and fellow Kung Fu masters, the Furious 5. However, Master Shifu's lesson to further Po's training to help him pursue inner peace is interrupted by a raid by wolves seeking all the refined metal they can steal from a village of musicians. Po and the 5 arrive to stop them, but the wolves get away when Po is distracted by the sight of a symbol on the lead wolf's armor that triggers a flashback of his mother. Po asks his father where he came from, but all the goose can tell him is that he found Po as an infant in a vegetable crate behind his restaurant and adopted him. Afterward, Master Shifu receives word that Master Thundering Rhino, leader of the Kung Fu Council protecting Gongmen City, has been killed by Shen's new weapon. Po and the Furious 5 are sent to stop him, but the journey is complicated by Po's troubling nightmares that he feels he cannot share completely with anyone, even with Tigress, whom he is growing increasingly close to. When they reach the city, Po and the 5 find it completely under the control of Shen's forces and try to stealthily reach Masters Storming Ox and Croc in the prison in order to get their help to liberate the city. Unfortunately, both masters inexplicably refuse to leave their cell, citing their helplessness against Lord Shen's weapon, forcing Po and the 5 to make the attempt alone. Po and the 5 are then discovered by the wolf leader, who they chase to prevent him from alerting Shen, only to be ambushed by a massive force. Po surrenders, and the group is arrested. Tigress questions Po, but assures her that he is formulating a plan placed in restraints. They are brought before Lord Shan in his tower. The Emperor Peacock refuses to believe that a goofy panda could possibly threaten him, while the soothsayer realizes Po has no knowledge of what the peacock did to his people. As per their plan, Po and the five free themselves and destroy the peacock's large cannon. Unfortunately, Po is again distracted by flashbacks upon seeing the same symbol as before on Shan's plumage, allowing the peacock to escape. The heroes discover, to their horror, that Shan has built a whole arsenal of cannons and they barely escape the tower while Shan destroys it with a salvo attack. Hiding in the prison, Tigress demands to know why Po froze and says the five will leave him behind if he can't be counted on in battle. The panda at first refuses to confess about his flashbacks, but ultimately relents and tells her that Shan knows what happened to his parents. Tigress then suddenly hugs Po, much to the surprise of everyone else. In the ensuing battle, Po faces Shan, who acknowledges that he was in Po's parents' village. He sadistically claims that Po's parents abandoned him. Po is emotionally shattered. Shan evilly smiles before he blasts the stunned panda point blank with a giant cannon. Po rockets out of the factory and plunges into the river to his apparent death, much to the shock and horror of the others. Back in the Jade Palace, Shifu wakes up and is horrified by Po's apparent death, is still alive when he is rescued by the soothsayer, who was exiled earlier by Shan. Guided by the soothsayer to embrace the past and let them rise, Po's memories come back as he witnesses the destruction of his village and his mother's flight from Shan's forces. Given the lie of Shan's cruel claim of abandonment, he sees instead that his mother endangered herself to save him by hiding him in the produce crate and drawing the pursuers away, seemingly to her death. At that, Po comes to realize that his past does not define him as much as his present choices. In the city, Lord Shan captures the five trying to stop his war fleet from departing and prepares to kill them as an example of his power as soon as his ships clear the city harbor. However, Po arrives to confront Shan and manages to free the five, beginning a massive battle to blow up Shan's ship before it reaches the harbor that soon includes Master Shifu, who also convinced Masters Storming Ox and Croc to participate. The attempt to stop the fleet fails and the heroes are left floating in the bay amongst the wreckage. Regardless, Po, finding footing on a floating piece of shattered timber, stands his ground against Shan and astounds everyone when he gauges Shan's cannon fire and redirects it back at his armada. In doing so, Po devastates the fleet and his cannons through Kung Fu alone and confronts Shan on his damaged flagship. However, Shan refuses the entreaty and hatefully attacks the dragon warrior. In the melee, Shan unintentionally slashes the ropes holding up his cannon, which then falls right at top of Shan. Po soon reunites with the other masters and the city celebrates Po's victory with fireworks. Back in the Valley of Peace, Po reunites with Mr. Ping and lovingly proclaims him to be his father. However, at that very moment in a distant hidden area that contains a whole village of giant pandas, Po's biological father is suddenly aware that his son is alive. In the spirit realm, Master Oogway is meditating peacefully when he is attacked by a spirit warrior, a bull named Kai who fought against Oogway 500 years previously. The two battle, and Oogway learns that Kai has increased his strength by stealing the chi of every kung fu master in the spirit realm, and only needs Oogway's to become strong enough to return to the mortal realm. Claiming victory, Kai is nevertheless warned that Oogway was never intended to defeat him, but that he has set someone else on that path. Meanwhile, in the Valley of Peace, Po and the Furious Five learn that Shifu will no longer be responsible for overseeing their training. That responsibility now falls to Po. After a disastrous first session, Shifu reveals to Po that he knew the panda was unprepared, but did it so that Po could achieve growth. After noting that Po has no real concept of his role as the dragon warrior, Shifu explains that he must grow if he is ever to reach the point that Shifu has, that of embarking on the quest to master chi itself. Kai then arrives in the mortal realm and, after learning that he has been forgotten by China, uses some of his collected chi to create living statues made of jade whom he dispatches to hunt down Oogway's legacy. Po, struggling to come to terms with Shifu's words and his own self-doubt, then has an unexpected reunion with his biological father, Li Shan, who reveals that other pandas survive as well in a hidden village, and that he was informed of Po's survival by a message from the universe. Sadly, Kai's warriors soon arrive to attack the valley, leaving Li concerned for his son's safety. After learning of Kai and his powers and history as a former comrade of Oogway's who turned to stealing chi after he and Oogway encountered ancient pandas, the heroes determine that Po must become a master of chi, and Li offers to train him. The two pandas set out for the village and are joined by Mr. Ping, who is troubled by Li Shan's return and what it could mean for his and Po's relationship. Upon reaching the village, Po is overjoyed to meet so many other pandas, and feels that he finally knows who he is. Shifu dispatches Mantis and Crane to determine Kai's whereabouts, only for the pair to fall victim to him along with Masters Bear, Croc, and Chicken. Soon all the masters but the remaining Furious Five, Shifu, and Po have fallen to him, and Kai arrives at the Jade Palace eager to complete his collection. After Viper and Monkey are handily defeated and Shifu is left unable to fight, the senior master orders Tigress to go and warn Po of his imminent danger before becoming another captive of Kai's. Tigress journeys to the village and informs the pandas of Kai's approach, and Li then admits that he has lied to Po about knowing the ancient chi techniques of the pandas. Furious, Po determines to face Kai and destroy him using the Wuxi finger hold, but is informed by Tigress that it cannot be done alone. After a pep talk from Mr. Ping, Li Shan offers himself and the other pandas to Po's tutelage so that he will have an army with which to face Kai's Jade Warriors. Following some rigorous and highly unconventional training, the pandas face Kai's assault, and manage to disorient him by attacking his army. Unfortunately, Po's attempt to finish him fails, as the Wuxi finger hold cannot affect immaterial beings such as Kai has become. However, Kai's comments on the matter lead Po to a realization, and he manages to get Kai back into the spirit realm by grabbing a hold of him and then using the hold on himself. However, Kai then proceeds to capture the Dragon Warrior and begin the process of collecting his chi back in the Panda Village. Po's allies manage to employ the chi technique, having been inspired by Po's leadership and sacrifice. The result frees Po from Kai's grasp and enables him to unlock his own mastery of chi, which he uses to defeat Kai and free the chi he had previously taken. He then meets with Oogway, who reveals that he chose Po to be the Dragon Warrior because he believed that Po could unite Kung Fu's past with its future. Po then returns to the mortal realm as a master of chi, to Shifu's awe and chagrin. He then instructs the pandas, Kung Fu masters, and residents of the Valley of Peace in the technique, which spreads good chi across the land. And that was the best ending of Kung Fu Panda 3. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do not forget to like and subscribe and sharing the video to your friends, and I will see you next time.